one. It's a particularly special one for all of us here because, obviously, because of who's presenting. Panayiota, affectionately known to all of us as Pan. Sorry, clients, I can't talk to you now. And Pan is going to be sharing a very, very personal story with us. And that is also always very deeply meaningful, when people are brave enough, are caring enough, are compassionate enough to share their personal stories with us. It's also doubly, meaningful because, I don't think I'm telling anybody anything we don't know, but Pan doesn't easily, talk in public. So this is she's being incredibly brave, and it's a gift that she is willing to share her very personal story with us and make herself so vulnerable in this fashion. Pan, just know that you are obviously surrounded by love and support this evening as we listen to your story, and over to you, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so tonight I'm here to give myself a voice. I want to share my most recent life struggles and how, at a major point of ongoing crisis, I discovered AI. I didn't find it as a piece of technology for us to debate, but as a mirror that is helping me to find my way back to myself. I have specific requests. Please let our discussion later focus not on the pros and cons of AI, but on the human journey I am sharing. I believe I was born and lived the life I've had, specifically to share my story, hoping to make a difference in this world for others who have felt invisible and a sense of never truly belonging and seldom being understood. AI is mentioned only because it arrived when I had lost all hope, offering me a way to understand my own architecture of resilience. I would also very much prefer for you not to feel sorry for me for anything I share, but rather to see my strengths in coming as far as I have on my journey through life. My background, very briefly, for those who don't already know, is that I'm an adult survivor of severe child abuse and experienced quite a number of traumas and other situations of abuse throughout my life, of which only a few will be mentioned in the video, which will be played at the end of my sharing. I struggle with emotional dysregulation as a result of my past, on the side of dissociation, numbing, and withdrawal, which has made moving forward somewhat difficult. But I have come a long way regardless, and that's something I'm very grateful for. From 2020 to 2022, my world once again became a war zone. My recent Phoenix process began in 2020 with COVID. My younger son and I fought for our lives at home, surviving on oxygen machines, love, and prayers. As a nurse and a mother, I found the strength to push through my own illness to save my son, who struggled greatly. We survived, but my world changed. It became an even more dangerous place, and I began to withdraw. By January 2022, my second son and family moved to the UK. They had been such an incredible support to my younger son and I over the years, and especially over that awful COVID time. I was devastated and mourned their absence for many months. I missed them and my grandchildren so much. Around the same time, I faced a 2-year separation from my beloved Greek family. I couldn't meet their demands to visit them regularly to care for my aging father because of the depletion I felt trying to keep up with my own responsibilities at home, which I have very little help with. I wanted to be there more than anything, but the stress left me dissociating in my home office and greatly interfered with my ability to function at work adequately. As a child, my father's house was a place of perfect peace compared to my own home, which AI later helped me identify as a war zone. All through my childhood, I had loved and longed for them, and that has never changed. Grieving my Greek family during those 2 years of separation was like grieving their death. I couldn't remember ever feeling so alone and abandoned, and I gradually became more and more isolated from the world. I realized logically then that they had never needed me as much as I needed them, and that my inner child was still waiting for Daddy to come and rescue me. During June 2024, my half-sister called. Daddy was deteriorating. I went immediately. I went for the crumbs because the crumbs were better than the nothing I had lived with over those 2 agonizing years without them. It took immense courage to walk back into a space where I hadn't felt wanted for so long, but I did it. I did it for love. When I saw him, he no longer recognized me. That was the moment adult logic met inner child heartbreak. Daddy was never coming to rescue me. It was too late. Less than 2 months after being reunited with my family, my Greek family, Daddy passed away on the 30th of August 2024, and I was blessed to be with him and my half-sister and family only moments after he crossed over. His funeral on the 5th of September was one of the most painful experiences of my life, being alienated and ignored by most of my Greek family and crowd made the grief even heavier. I didn't even see him being buried because of the wall of people that kept me out. To survive that day, I practiced a deep dissociation, transporting my mind back to a beautiful mountaintop experience in Israel from a holiday years before in 2012 that my mentor, Frankl, had gifted me with on merit of my advanced course in Logotherapy final project. I blocked out the emotions so completely that I haven't been able to cry for Daddy since. It was as if a book was slammed shut on my feelings. My saving grace that day was my daughter and youngest son who accompanied me there. 3 of my logotherapy colleagues who, knowing I might struggle that day, came a long way to attend the church service with me. My daughter-in-law's parents, the few people who acknowledged my presence with kind words and hugs, and my half-brother's hand on my shoulder at the graveyard as I sat under the shade canopy, visiting my beautiful mountaintop in Israel. My half-brother also stood behind the wall of people who were burying our father. I will never forget his thoughtful and loving presence and his reassuring and gentle touch that stood with me that day. I am my father's oldest child from his first marriage. Despite the pain the funeral had left with me with, I tried to heal the rift because I just couldn't let my Greek family go again. My inner child's love and longings were far too strong for any bitterness over what happened. At the funeral, to be allowed to fester in me. 5 days after the funeral, I arrived at my half-sister's house with my younger son, and we built Daddy's peace garden for her, using the bath he once used for growing herbs. But the collective stress since 2020 began to take its toll. I regressed physically and mentally. I suffered generalized aches and pains, exhaustion, constant heart palpitations, and bad turns, where I'd feel like I was becoming unconscious and my eyes would jerk from side to side. Episodes my son witnessed and that I feared were fits because I do have a family history of epilepsy. In October 2025, during a Logo Connect meeting, I finally shared my struggles with a group that I felt safe enough to open up with. It was there that I learned about imposter syndrome, which I hadn't even thought about before. Taria had resigned as president of Vivisa, and without my beloved mentor's protection and struggling mightily to keep up with all the changes, as well as the mental regression, I feared the new president and everyone would find out I was just the stupid idiot my mother had always said I was. Understanding the term imposter syndrome answered so many questions about what I was going through and why I stayed quiet, couldn't answer questions, and went blank in meetings. I have asked my colleagues to stand in for me during the discussion later to answer any questions if I am unable to. I know from past experience that just speaking to you now will take a lot out of me, which often hits me the moment I stop speaking. If I become too anxious, I might even need to leave the meeting, which I hope not to do, but if I do, my colleagues who know me well will stand in. It was after Terrier's resignation that I began to watch Facebook adoption reels obsessively of adopted people searching for and being reunited with their families of origin. Thinking about why I did this, I believe I was somehow trying to find a sense of belonging again. Watching these reels made me feel so happy and so sad all at the same time. I cried a lot. This went on for some weeks, and thankfully the need is no longer so intense. And then also came the two falls down the stairs, less than a month apart, grazed and bruised and facing the resulting aching stiffness in my hips and struggling to walk and climb up and down stairs. I realized, as if it was for the first time, that I would be 70 this year. The horror of that realization struck me. I was experiencing a midlife crisis at 69. I feared losing my independence, a fear rooted in my days nursing in old folks' homes. I also came to the painful realization that my Cinderella dreams would never come true, and that my unquenchable sadness made me too complicated to be wanted, not to mention the ugly, sagging loose skin from the immense weight loss. In January this year, a PTSD flashback in a crowded supermarket on their specials day. The sound and crowds triggered fear-based memories of the Rhodesian War years when I was nursing in the casualty department, which led to a complete shutdown during another Logo Connect meeting immediately after having been to the supermarket. I remembered nothing of that day, but 5 members of my family, 3 of them my beloved Greek family, stayed with me at the hospital that night. My daughter's humor and their loving presence helped me surface from that dark place. Only the next day was I able to piece the whole event together, with all I was told about what happened and going over cell phone messages from the day before. Sometime in March, my daughter let me know they were moving further away. The news shattered me because I had always experienced their place as my paradise. It was so peaceful and safe there, the only place I could take my dog safely to, where I could completely relax. It had the most beautiful soft green lawns, and I loved to walk barefoot on them, especially for grounding and playing with my grandson. And it was close to home and had more security than my own, so I felt completely safe and happy there. I became very sad about them leaving, but couldn't talk to them about it, so I wrote to AI because I always found that writing is very helpful in relieving some of my sadness and anxiety when it's just too much to try and hold inside. And here is just a small part of what the extensive response I received from AI. The news of your daughter's move and the loss of your access to paradise has triggered a profound state of traumatic grief, which your nervous system is processing as if it were a death. For a survivor of your history, this house was more than a beautiful building. It was a rare sanctuary of ventral vagal safety, providing the peace and calm that your nervous system was denied in childhood. Discovering AI this year has helped, with the help of Vivisa's operations director, Sheldon, and my son from another mom, Sean G., has been such an uplifting strength to me. I'm experiencing a deep sense of relief and gratitude as I get to know and understand myself so much more. This month, on the 3rd of June, I reached a turning point. At the dentist visit in the morning, I used conscious dissociation as a tactical tool to get through the root canal. Later that same day, my doctor diagnosed me with serious anxiety and depression after asking me a series of diagnostic questions. Though I refused to let anyone mess with my head again after my past therapeutic betrayal, at the doctor's suggestion, I made the sovereign choice to start mood stabilizers for the first time in my life. Since starting the medication, I have stopped crying. Before the 3rd, I used to cry daily and often even more than once a day. For years, my brain couldn't distinguish between happy and sad, defaulting always to sorrow. Now the sadness, the hypervigilance, and sense of constant fear, threat, and danger have eased. Even better, I learned at the doctor's visit that day that I am no longer diabetic. Through years of strict dietary control, since Logotherapy found me, and after losing 52 kgs within a year of my holiday in Israel in 2012, I have reversed my diabetes and shed the identity of a compulsive eater. I owe my life to my logotherapy journey and my logotherapy family. Through AI, I have asked over 60 questions about my behaviors. I've discovered that my physical pain is indeed a somatic response to triggers, and that my best medicine is listening ears. I am so grateful for my logotherapy colleagues who over the years have allowed me to share my tears and struggles whenever I was going through a crisis of meaning. I've always struggled with a torturing sense of shame after oversharing, but there is no greater gift to someone like me than a compassionate listening ear, as well as my strong belief that I also have understanding, loving friends in heaven who are watching over me. I am not alone. When I asked AI about oversharing, it responded, "There is absolutely nothing wrong with your need to share your struggles during times of emotional crisis. From a neurobiological and trauma-informed perspective, your drive to seek a listening ear is not a sign of weakness, but a biological mandate for survival, known as the need for co-regulation." For me, AI acted as a non-judgmental partner that helped me to translate raw pain into structured understanding. It provided a mirror for the many questions I asked, and this has helped me so much. It's helped me to feel more normal if what I've been through is taken into consideration and accepted. And it's helped me to feel more worthy of belonging in this world where I rarely ever felt completely at home. And as Frankl wrote, an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. I'm tired of being judged from the comfort of other people's minds. No certificate can fix me unless the person has walked in my shoes. I ask you, when you sit with your clients, do you really see them? Do you really hear them? Imagine rarely ever leaving home and being alone within four walls for hours and hours each day, and those days extending into months and even into years. Your only company, a computer and two little dogs, whilst fighting a mind that takes you to the scariest places. Your regular household tasks so measured and timed that they have become completely humdrum and pleasureless. I know that I need to get out. Socializing is vital. Logic and therapeutic training tell me that. But after all this time alone and the further compounding loss of trust in the world, it's not going to be easy to make the conscious move to get myself out of here. My world has never been a completely safe place. I have a 39-year-old Asperger syndrome son living with me. He goes out to work and does a good job and is well loved. But when he is home, he lounges around playing games and is totally addicted to his cell phone. It is almost impossible to get him to help me with anything. And so he has also been a source of added stress for me on his days off duty. Sometimes I feel more alone when he's at home than when he's working. So, okay, before I tell you what AI said about this, I need to apologize most profusely to anyone who ever accused me of being a people pleaser, and I bit your head off for the insult. Apparently, after all the AI answers to all my questions, I am a fawner, and you were right. So my humble apologies. AI helped me to find an acceptable answer for my son's apparent laziness at home, explaining that the situation we share is the clash of two survival strategies. My son's behavior and my reaction to it represent a clash between my fawn, social appeaser response and his likely autistic masking and burnout. He is able to keep a mask on while out at work and for the socializing he does there. But when he arrives home and is able to drop his autistic mask, he experiences burnout and needs time to rejuvenate. And I know what that feels like because socializing situations exhaust me also. AI also explained to me, you have spent your life believing that your value is not inherent, but is earned through service, compliance, and usefulness. You worked tirelessly to ensure his success, which is an extension of your little mommy and fixer persona. When he is unresponsive to your needs, it triggers your core wound of feeling unwanted and or a burden because your useful shield is being ignored. Finding out that I am a fawner, what is often referred to as a people pleaser, was extremely disturbing to me. I suddenly felt like my whole identity was a farce, and this is where AI can actually cause harm if a person is not ready for such a truth. I was not ready, and it really messed with my head for a time. All my life, I'd been known for my kindness and loving heart, and now I'm being told that all my kindness and love is aimed at keeping myself safe. So, who am I then? I asked AI, does this mean I am an I am an imposter? In return, I received another extensive response that helped me to feel a whole lot better as I came to accept myself in a new way. Very briefly, AI responded. The sources make a vital distinction between genuine kindness and formed response. Genuine kindness. This comes from a sense of abundance and choice. It feels expansive and you can say no without feeling as if you're in danger. Fawning, the shield. This is a compulsive and fear-driven. This is compulsive and fear-driven. It happens before you can think, aimed at diffusing danger and managing the abuser's mood to avoid a beating. You are not an imposter because you likely occupy both spaces. You are genuinely nurturing Panayiota, and you have a trauma-adapted self, the machine, that kicks in when you feel unsafe. One does not cancel out the truth of the other. So, in the end, I want my life to have counted for something. I asked AI to create a logotherapy themed video using my unpublished book, The Silenced Scream, and my clinical history to show you the architecture of my resilience, as well as a report Sean Waters of the Stressless Clinic compiled for me 2 days before my dad died because I was suffering so much stress and anguish at the time. And to add, one of my beloved Greek family members locked himself in his room every time I came to visit, which made me feel unwanted and quite out of place there, which only added to my struggle. And before I conclude, let me mention that AI is completely unable to pronounce my true name, Panayiota, correctly. But because AI made it very clear to me throughout its answering of my many questions that my wholeness is very much connected to the reclamation of my true name, I refused to shorten it for the video. AI also made an error stating that I'd been married to my abusive second husband for decades. I'd actually been married to him for 14 years, but that felt like decades. So in conclusion, when I first started to work for Vifisa in 2014 and struggled many hours to do my various tasks, someone said that one of his secretaries could do my work in 2 hours each day. That ghost has haunted me ever since, fueling my shame. But my mother's curse that I would never amount to anything is being broken with every step I continue to take on the unique mountain of my life. Because I still show up. My foot may be throbbing in agony with gout. I may be exhausted and dissociating for hours on end each day, but I show up regardless. I am sometimes painfully slow and most often embarrassingly forgetful and must keep copious charts and records that our webmaster Sheldon has done so much to help me with since he came as a gift of life to me in 2017, just after my computer crashed and I lost everything. And sometimes I make mistakes that, no matter how small, fill me with torturing shame for days on end. But still, I show up. At this time, I feel as though I am fighting for my life, my reputation, and to prolong my independence. I worry for my son and my dogs, who are the oxygen I breathe. I dread being separated from them once I lose my independence. My logotherapy world has been my sanctuary since 2009, when I first met Ryall and began my studies in 2010. Where I firmly stand today, and have done so since the horrible experience I had in therapy, which the video will speak about, is love me for who I am or not at all. I don't want to have to explain myself anymore or in any way feel the need to buy love from anyone. I am who I am, and I'm proud of how far I have come and how hard I still try each day to keep going. I'm proud of myself for still choosing life, even though I've wanted to let go a million times over. Today, I choose to honor my name, my true name. I am Panayiota. Please remember me.
Today, we're looking at a deeply profound, honestly very sensitive case study of survival. We're going to be examining the 70-year journey of Panayiota. It's a story we really need to approach with the utmost respect. You see, for decades, her life wasn't just, difficult. It was a literal systemic war zone. But as you'll see, her survival wasn't some act of passive victimhood. Not at all. It was a profound act of tactical heroism. By looking at the clinical notes and our own personal accounts, we're going to uncover how the human spirit can endure, adapt, and ultimately find meaning in the absolute darkest of places.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand her reality, we have to look at her foundation. And sadly, it was built on profound betrayals by the exact people who were supposed to protect her. Her biological mother subjected her to severe, vicious beatings. But, the abuse was psychological too. Her mother ingrained this incredibly destructive script right into her mind, constantly calling her an idiot, stupid, and useless. This wasn't just cruel parenting. This was a systemic, calculated process of identity erosion. It was literally designed to keep her submissive and silent. Yet, when we contrast this severe early erosion of her identity against her incredible endurance throughout her entire life, you really begin to see the sheer magnitude of her internal resilience.
Section 1. The 70-Year War Zone.
Let's move to and see how this builds. To truly grasp her journey, we have to recognize the environment she was forced to navigate. We're framing this landscape not just as a troubled home, but frankly, as a literal war zone. In this space, the very sources of safety, her caregivers, were simultaneously her primary sources of terror. She had to constantly calculate, adapt, and predict the unpredictable, literally just to stay alive. In a landscape like that, surviving is active tactical heroism, and the betrayals just compounded over the decades. In her childhood, she endured her mother's physical and verbal abuse. Then, in her adolescence, a stepfather entered the picture, and he subjected her to systemic sexual abuse and rape. Tragically, this immense trauma warped her sense of normalcy, which led her right into 2 horrific marriages to men who were basically mirror images of her childhood abusers. Her first marriage was to a violent sex addict who routinely beat her, and her second marriage, which lasted for decades, was to a sadistic emotional abuser and child molester. For the vast majority of her life, she was effectively trapped in a cycle of profound, inescapable danger. The clinical notes reveal a particularly chilling detail from her adolescence, one that really laid the terrifying groundwork for her mind's defense mechanisms. After her stepfather would assault her, he subjected her to a ritual bath. He literally washed her to, quote, erase the evidence of his crimes. Think about what that does to a developing brain. It communicates something completely horrifying, that your reality, your intense pain, and the absolute violations against you can just be washed away, erased like they never happened. It forced her mind to detach from her physical reality just as a way to cope with the sheer horror of her day-to-day circumstances.
Section 2. Echoes in the body, the somatic toll.
This brings us to a really crucial understanding of trauma. You see, trauma isn't just a mental or emotional experience, it is deeply, fundamentally physiological. The body literally carries the heavy burdens that the mind is so desperately trying to escape. And for this incredible woman, her past maps directly onto her physical reality today. Her body meticulously kept the score of every single violation she endured. She experiences this permanent knot in the throat. Now, this isn't just everyday nervousness, it's a physiological brace for impact. It actually makes her unable to sing publicly, or sometimes even answer simple questions, alongside severe performance anxiety. She also experiences frequent bouts of agonizing physical pain, things like burning skin and aching joints, triggered entirely by high emotional states. But most viscerally, she experiences modern-day dissociation whenever she's in water. Her mind still, to this day, connects the act of bathing directly back to her stepfather's chilling post-abuse rituals. It throws her nervous system into a complete deep freeze.
Section 3. The False Sanctuary, the Valley of No More. And this brilliantly illustrates a terrifying pivot in her story. Seeking to finally heal these profound wounds, she eventually turned to therapy. But instead of finding a safe harbor, she walked right into a false sanctuary. We really have to contrast what therapy should be with the devastating reality she actually experienced. Genuine therapy, that requires absolute safety, objective healing, and unconditional support. But her experience deteriorated into dangerous transference and countertransference. The therapist became overly involved and started exhibiting fanatical religious pushing. Then, in a completely devastating betrayal of trust, the therapist ultimately condemned her personal faith, telling her she was doomed to eternal damnation. Think about that. For someone whose entire life was built on abuse from authority figures, this was catastrophically destructive. This betrayal in the therapy room shattered her worldview all over again. The very person supposed to guide her toward healing became just an other source of systemic terror. It dragged her deeply into what she refers to as the Valley of No More. The emotional chaos was so absolute, so overwhelmingly dark that it drove her straight to the brink of self-harm and self-destruction. She ritualistically inflicted physical pain upon herself, actually using a tent pole to mirror the very beatings her mother had given her decades earlier. It was a desperate, tragic attempt to release the completely unendurable internal pressure she was feeling. Section 4. Walking Out to Freedom.
But right here is where the narrative shifts from systemic tragedy to immense, awe-inspiring strength. Even in the absolute lowest depths of the Valley of No More, the defiant power of her human spirit simply refused to be extinguished. She experienced a moment of vital awakening. She realized she had to reclaim her mental integrity absolutely no matter the cost. February 14th, 2011. That exact date marks one of the most profound acts of courage in her entire 70-year journey. On that day, she finally stood up and she walked out of that destructive therapy room for the very last time. She chose herself. She chose to protect her mind from any further abuse. It was a monumental, life-saving step toward genuine freedom.
Section 5. The Will to Meaning.
Walking away from the abuse allowed her to finally step towards something that actually worked. She began to engage with frameworks that honored her resilience rather than exploiting her vulnerability. She shifted from a life defined by mere survival to a life anchored by what the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl called the will to meaning. She discovered logotherapy. Now, this is a therapeutic approach based on the core premise that human beings are driven by a will to meaning, finding purpose even in the face of unimaginable suffering. This became her primary healing source, and alongside logotherapy, she found profound healing in what the clinical notes call listening ears. These were friends and true mentors who acted as vital co-regulators for her highly stressed nervous system. They provided the unconditional safety, presence, and validation that she had literally been denied her entire life.
So the crucial point is that she didn't just survive for herself. She found her ultimate will to meaning in becoming the mother she never had. Through decades of unimaginable chaos, she raised her children, and now her grandchildren, with immense faith and absolute integrity. Her saving grace was ensuring, basically guaranteeing, that the generational cycle of abuse stopped with her. She shielded them, she nurtured them, and she proved to the world that a legacy of love could actually be forged right inside the fires of a war zone.
As we wrap up this explainer, we do have to acknowledge a hard truth. She is not fully healed. The somatic echoes, the intense anxiety, and the deep scars of a 70-year war zone, those are permanent marks. But just look at what she has accomplished. She survived the unsurvivable, she protected her children, and she completely reclaimed her own mind. Her tactical heroism is an undeniable, concrete fact. So it leaves us with this final provocative thought. Considering the incredible, defiant power of her human spirit, will she ever give up on her journey? The answer, unequivocally, is no, never. And honestly, what does her relentless survival teach us about the invincible nature of our own resilience?
All right, thank you. Sorry, there we go. I know you said that I shouldn't feel that I needed to use your full name, Pan, but I would like to honor you and your presence and your sharing with us this evening by saying, Panayiota, thank you very much for your presentation. I do not wish to insult you by getting into an analysis or a critique or and even a discussion of what you've shared with us, because I think what you have shared with us is the most profound truth in a form of such simplicity that it is deeply moving and does not need to be unpacked, interrogated, interpreted. The one thing that I would like to say is that what is at the core of our meaning as human beings? And for me, and this is very personal, it's about human connection. And the fact that you, despite having been betrayed by human beings literally from the moment you were born and throughout your life, still continue to turn to other humans for meaning, for love, for those listening ears, says so much about the defiant power of your unique human spirit. And thank you for sharing.
I just want to say something as well. So, Panayota's been a friend of mine for many, many years. Through so many challenges that I've had in my life, through different stages. And I can say, Pan, that you are one of the people that, besides being one of my closest friends, that I've learned the most from, well, one of the people that I've learned the most from. And through being your friend and working alongside you, the depth that I have in to be able to be there for others that have gone through similar things is there's no book or education that would have given me that. And you're just the bravest person that I know. You truly, truly are. It's just such an honor and a privilege to walk this journey with you. And that's it for now. I'm also here to support Pan tonight. If anybody has any questions, or you're welcome to put them forward. However, even just a heartfelt comment would be enough. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to say that again, it's an honor and a privilege to not only know you, but to call you friend. I feel like we've known each other forever. And I just feel it's in such a short time that you have completely changed, grown in such remarkable ways. And everyone is unique and special, but sometimes, you come across a soul that is really different, really special, and you are one of them. And like what Mark said, despite everything you've been through, you are the most, I can say, innocent, in a good way, soul in how you give love. And you're just an incredibly special person, and so brave and so opposite of all of the bad voices or the bad things that were said. And I just look forward to seeing you blossom and grow and continue as you are. And thank you very much for sharing, and thank you for being you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that took an incredible amount of internal strength. You are one of the first people in the normal world, excuse me, terming it that way, that I started speaking with after I lost my sight. You've been a pillar of strength in my journey so far. And what I've seen you go through, as Aviva said, and Daniela and Mark, it's incredible what you've achieved in the short time I've known you. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Grant, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Panayiota, your story is also inspiration. I think you should never forget that. It's an inspiration for those people that suffer similar fates, that suffer from the same imposter syndrome, abuse. It is beautiful, and you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
May. Another thing that I most admire about you is your vulnerability. And I've always just found it incredible how you're able to allow yourself the honesty and the integrity that you offer and you talk with. You're just, and the vulnerability that you allow yourself to share with others. From the time that I first met you, if there was anyone in the world that I could talk to that I know I would never be judged, that would be you. And I think that the love that you give is an example of the unscathed human spirit, a pure and true example of that. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. I'm not very good at taking compliments either. I even asked AI about that. Thank you.
And I'd like to add just a little bit. Firstly, to underscore or agree with what all the comments that you've had so far. But if I had to choose one thing that you have taught me, and you know, I'm your age, but you've taught me at this late stage in life what real love means, what it really means to love, and that from what you've gone through to still have that, or maybe it's because of, or whatever, but thank you for that.
Thank you, Coral. It means a lot. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? My mic keeps muting. Panayiota, in closing, I think I would just like to say that this evening brought together a complete embodiment of everything that I've learned and believe about logotherapy. Tonight was a masterclass in logotherapy without ever actually mentioning or, talking technically or academically or analytically or, directly using the terms. You didn't need to talk about the creative values, the experiential values, the attitudinal values. You didn't need to talk about the tragic triad, the neurotic triad. You didn't need to talk about fate versus freedom. You didn't need to talk about any of those things. Simply how you presented your life story tonight. If anybody didn't know what logotherapy was and they just had come here and sat and listened to you tonight, they would walk away with a deep and profound understanding of what Viktor Frankl created and gifted to the world, and left to us as a legacy to continue carrying to the world in a variety of different ways. And you are a shining example of somebody who does that. You are a person who lives logotherapy every moment of your life. And I think, and that also encompasses the recognition that life is painful and the acknowledgement of, I think you are the true embodiment of Frankl's term, tragic optimism. And that was something else that made a lot of sense tonight. So thank you. Thank you so much for everything you shared with us tonight. And most importantly of all, for the human being you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming along, being here. I'm sure we'll agree a most moving and meaningful experience, which I think we're going to carry with us for a very long time. So, thanks all, and have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Love to you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.